10,000 workers at John Deere facilities in Iowa, Illinois, and Kansas are set to strike tonight. They want better wages and benefits from the massive farm equipment company. John Deere has plants across Iowa in Ankeny, Waterloo, Ottumwa, and Dubuque, just to name a few. Local 5's John Diaz is at one of those plants in Ottumwa tonight. John, what are you hearing from folks in town there?
Hey, Samantha, you know, when you talk to folks in town, it is so apparent how many people here are connected to the John Deere operation. They either work here or they have friends and family who work here. Right now, not a lot of activity outside of this particular facility, but we know that workers are getting ready to strike just before midnight. That is the potential. A lot of logistics for them to work out in terms of actually making that happen. This would be the first strike that John Deere has faced in nearly 40 years. Workers overwhelmingly rejecting the latest contract proposal that has been on the table. We spoke with the president of the Iowa Federation of Labor, and of course they're telling us that this is going to impact workers, right? They're not going to get a paycheck from John Deere, so that's going to be a big impact, but it's also going to impact workers who perhaps are not part of United Auto Workers but rely on this operation to be up and running in order for them to do their job. And of course, it's going to affect this community. We spoke with a woman in town. She works in the service industry. She has family, a family member who's a welder, so she's going to feel this at home, but she's also expecting to feel this, you know, in her own pocketbook when it comes to how people spend their money in town, right? Depending on how long this goes. We know strikes can go a day or they can go many months. That part we don't know. We will be live out here tonight at 10 with the latest on what we know, plus more on the impact that this can have on a community like this. For now, we are live in Ottumwa. John Diaz, Local 5 News. We are Iowa.
All right, John, thank you. Here's the timeline of contract negotiations between John Deere and its workers. On October 1st, a majority of John Deere employees and executives reached a 6-year labor contract. But details of the deal were just released over the weekend, and thousands of union members were upset with the low wage increase and benefits. Moments after those agreement details were shared, workers rejected the deal and threatened to go on strike tonight at midnight. An expert at the University of Iowa Labor Center says there's more to this dispute than the number of union workers upset. John Deere is having a great year, a record year, as the company is projected to earn $6 billion. And workers are looking at their prospective wages and benefits in the contract and thinking it's just not enough.
Frontline workers were at the factory every day, working, keeping the wheels turning, and putting out the product that made huge profits, record profits for John Deere. And they're saying that you have to treat us with the dignity and respect to give us a fair share of the wealth that we have created for you.
Pension is a big piece of negotiations. Iverson says that's always been an important part of unions, thinking beyond current employees and the next generation. If John Deere workers walk off the job tonight, it would be the first time since the 1980s that workers went on strike. During that time, John Deere workers in Iowa and elsewhere were on strike for 160 days. One labor union insider tells us we could expect to see more workers walk off the job in other industries.
We're looking at levels of strike activity that are comparable to the mid 80s, which no one says is, you know, the heyday of, you know, working class fighting. But on the other hand, it's been decades since we've seen this much activity. I think a lot of what we've seen is a tight labor market. Inflation is rising for, you know, the consumer price index, and companies just have been getting away with concessionary contracts, as we call them in the labor movement, contracts that take away more union rights. And they sort of haven't adopted to the moment of the post-pandemic frustration that workers are feeling.
Furman says for the most part, strike activity has been centered in the public sector, in teacher strikes. But now we're seeing that energy bubble into private businesses like John Deere in recent years. Here's the data to back that up. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 8 strikes happened in 2020, from poultry workers in Georgia protesting working conditions to meat packers walking off the job in Colorado because of lack of safety protection equipment. Thousands of private sector workers organized strikes. And most recently, nurses have been walking off the job because of low pay and vaccine mandates. Reporter David Bowman tonight at the company's headquarters with an update from the eastern side of the state. David, what can you tell us right now?
Well, Samantha, what we're hearing tonight from the United Auto Workers Union is that negotiations are taking place right now. We've reached out to the company. They have not reached out back. We've reached out to the union leadership, but they're all behind those closed doors negotiating. So here's what we do know right now. We do know that a Deere worker of more than 19 years, Tim Neidert, he tells us that second and third shift workers were told not to report to work today, but instead they'd be paid to stay home. Neidert served as the union bargaining chairperson up until 5 years ago, and he explains that that move is a normal process to avoid, quote, conflicts or confusion by having those workers just stay home when you're hours away from a looming deadline like this. The union has said that its workers are willing to walk off the job without an agreement, but it's not automatic.
Now, this deal affects more than 10,000 manufacturing
Progress is being made.
It appears we are having some audio crossover there. We want to let you know the vast majority rejected the company's latest offer on Sunday. And that is a story we're going to keep following. Our team is monitoring the latest developments with this story throughout the evening. Hugely impactful. Make sure to stay up to date on the latest moves of a strike at John Deere. Our digital resources, they're on your screen.